The human midbrain, a small but mighty part of our brain, plays a crucial role in processing sensory information and coordinating movement. Nestled between the forebrain and hindbrain, it's like the brain's control center for vision and hearing. The midbrain houses structures like the superior and inferior colliculi, which help us react to visual and auditory stimuli. Ever wondered how you instinctively duck when something flies at your head? Thank the midbrain for that quick reflex. It also contains the substantia nigra, a key player in the production of dopamine, which is vital for movement and reward. When this area is compromised, it can lead to conditions like Parkinson's disease, highlighting just how essential the midbrain is for our daily functioning. Moreover, the midbrain is involved in regulating our sleep-wake cycles and alertness, acting as a bridge between our conscious and unconscious states. Imagine it as a traffic cop, directing signals and ensuring everything runs smoothly. So the next time you marvel at your ability to react to a sound or a sight, remember the incredible work happening in your midbrain, tirelessly keeping you connected to the world around you. The midbrain, also known as the mesencephalon, is a small region of the brain stem connecting the forebrain and hindbrain. It plays a crucial role in various functions, including auditory processing, visual processing, movement control, pain modulation, arousal and alertness, and eye movements. The midbrain consists of several structures. The tectum, which is the dorsal part that includes the superior and inferior colliculi. The tegmentum, the ventral part that includes the periaqueductal gray and reticular formation. The cerebral peduncles, which connect the midbrain to the forebrain and hindbrain. And the Aqueduct of Sylvius, which connects the third and fourth ventricles. The midbrain also contains important nuclei, such as the red nucleus, which is involved in motor control and coordination. The substantia nigra, which regulates movement and reward. The ventral tegmental area, which is involved in reward and motivation. And the dorsal raphe nucleus, which regulates mood and serotonin release. Damage to the midbrain can lead to various disorders, including midbrain stroke, Parkinson's disease, progressive supranuclear palsy, and midbrain tumors. Interestingly, the midbrain is the smallest part of the brainstem, processes 30% of auditory information, regulates 80% of eye movements, and is involved in the body's fight or flight response. Clinical applications related to the midbrain include neuroimaging techniques like MRI and CT scans, neurosurgery for midbrain disorders, deep brain stimulation to treat Parkinson's disease and other movement disorders, and pain management targeting the periaqueductal gray for pain modulation. Would you like more information on a specific aspect of the midbrain? The human hindbrain, a fascinating part of our brain, is crucial for our survival. It consists of the medulla, pons, and cerebellum, each playing a unique role. The medulla controls vital functions like breathing and heart rate, acting as our body's automatic pilot. Just below it, the pons serves as a communication hub, relaying messages between the cerebellum and the cerebrum, and even playing a role in regulating sleep. Now let's talk about the cerebellum, often referred to as the little brain. It's responsible for coordination and balance, allowing us to perform complex movements smoothly. Imagine trying to ride a bike without it. Chaos. The hindbrain also processes sensory information, helping us react quickly to our environment. In essence, the hindbrain is like the unsung hero of our nervous system, managing essential functions that keep us alive and active. It's incredible how this small region orchestrates so much, ensuring we can navigate the world with grace and precision. The hindbrain, also known as the Rhombencephalon, is the posterior, rear part of the brainstem, connecting the midbrain to the spinal cord. The Medulla Oblongata is the lowest part, regulating vital functions. The Pons is the middle part, involved in sleep, arousal, and sensory processing. The cerebellum is the dorsal upper part, coordinating movement and balance. It regulates vital functions such as breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, and body temperature. It processes sensory information from the body, coordinates movement and balance, regulates the sleep-wake cycle, and controls swallowing and digestive processes. The Medulla Oblongata includes the cardiac center, which regulates heart rate, the respiratory center, which regulates breathing, the vasomotor center, which regulates blood pressure and temperature regulation, which regulates body temperature. The Pons includes the sleep center, which regulates the sleep-wake cycle, sensory processing, which processes sensory information from the body, and cranial nerve nuclei, which control facial expressions, hearing, and balance. The cerebellum regulates movement and balance and is involved in motor learning and memory. Damage and disorders can include brainstem stroke, which damages hindbrain tissue due to lack of blood flow, medulla oblongata damage, which affects vital functions, cerebellar ataxia, which causes loss of coordination and balance, and hindbrain tumors, which can be benign or malignant growths. Interesting facts include that the hindbrain develops from the embryonic rhombencephalon, regulates 90% of automatic functions, contains 69% of the brain's neurons, and is responsible for 80% of sensory processing. Clinical applications include neuroimaging such as MRI and CT scans, neurosurgery for surgical interventions for hindbrain disorders, physical therapy for rehabilitation of cerebellar-related movement disorders, and respiratory therapy to manage breathing disorders. Would you like more information on a specific aspect of the hindbrain? The medulla oblongata, a small but mighty part of the brainstem, plays a crucial role in keeping us alive. Nestled just above the spinal cord, it's responsible for regulating vital functions like breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure. Imagine it as your body's autopilot, managing these essential processes without you even thinking about it. This structure is also a relay station for signals between the brain and the body. It processes sensory information and coordinates reflexes, like when you touch something hot and instantly pull away. The medulla is home to several important centers, including those for vomiting and swallowing, which might not sound glamorous, but they're vital for survival. Interestingly, the medulla oblongata is involved in regulating sleep and wakefulness, influencing how alert or drowsy we feel. Damage to this area can have serious consequences, affecting everything from basic motor functions to life-threatening conditions. So next time you take a breath or feel your heart beating, remember the unsung hero working tirelessly behind the scenes, the medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata, also known as the medulla, is the lowest part of the brainstem, connecting the pons and spinal cord. It regulates vital functions essential for life. The anterior, front part controls movement and sensation. The posterior, back part regulates vital functions. The dorsal, upper part processes sensory information, and the ventral, lower part controls motor functions. It regulates breathing, respiration, controls heartbeat and blood pressure, regulates vasodilation and vasoconstriction, regulates hypothermia and hyperthermia, regulates appetite and fluid balance, controls swallowing and digestive processes, regulates reflexes like coughing and sneezing, and controls the emetic reflex for vomiting. The cardiac center regulates heart rate. The respiratory center regulates breathing. The vasomotor center regulates blood pressure. The temperature regulation center regulates body temperature. The dorsal motor nucleus controls parasympathetic functions, and the nucleus ambiguus regulates swallowing and vocalization. Damage to the medulla oblongata affects vital functions. Brainstem stroke causes damage to medulla tissue due to lack of blood flow. Medulla oblongata syndrome is a collection of symptoms due to damage, and apneustic center damage affects breathing. The medulla oblongata is the oldest part of the brain, regulates 90% of automatic functions. Damage to the medulla can lead to locked-in syndrome, and it is responsible for 80% of vital functions. Clinical applications include neuroimaging like MRI and CT scans, neurosurgery for surgical interventions for medulla disorders, respiratory therapy to manage breathing disorders, and cardiac rehabilitation to manage heart-related disorders. Would you like more information on a specific aspect of the medulla oblongata? Pons is a fascinating structure in the brain, often referred to as the bridge. It connects different parts of the nervous system, playing a crucial role in relaying signals between the cerebellum and the cerebrum. This tiny yet powerful area is involved in regulating sleep, respiration, and even facial expressions. Imagine waking up and not being able to smile or frown. That's how vital the pons is for our daily interactions. It also helps coordinate movements, making it essential for activities like walking or playing sports. Interestingly, the pons is part of the brainstem, which controls many automatic functions. So it's like the unsung hero of our brain. Understanding the pons not only highlights its importance in our neurological health, but also opens up discussions about how interconnected our brain functions truly are. The pons is a part of the brainstem, located between the midbrain and medulla oblongata, and plays a crucial role in various functions. The dorsal upper part processes sensory information, while the ventral lower part controls motor functions. The basilar part connects the pons to the midbrain and medulla, and the pontine tegmentum regulates sleep and arousal. The pons regulates the sleep-wake cycle, processes sensory information from the body, coordinates movement and balance, controls facial expressions, hearing and balance, assists in regulating breathing, coordinates the swallowing process, and processes sound information. The pontine nuclei process sensory information. Cranial nerve nuclei control facial expressions, hearing, and balance. The reticular formation regulates sleep and arousal, and the RAF nuclei regulate mood and serotonin release. Damage to the pons can lead to pontine stroke, pontine hemorrhage, locked-in syndrome, and pontocerebellar hypoplasia. Interestingly, pons is Latin for bridge. It contains 10% of the brain's neurons, regulates 70% of sensory processing, and damage to the pons can lead to coma or death. Clinical applications include neuroimaging like MRI and CT scans, neurosurgery for Pons disorders, physical therapy for rehabilitation of Pons-related movement disorders, and treatment for sleep-wake cycle disorders. The pons is associated with 6 cranial nerves: the trigeminal nerve, CNV, for facial sensations and motor control; the abducens nerve, CN6, for eye movement; the facial nerve, CN7, for facial expressions and hearing; the auditory nerve, CN8, for hearing and balance; the glossopharyngeal nerve, CN9, for swallowing and taste; and the vagus nerve, CNX, for various functions, including respiration and digestion. Would you like more information on a specific aspect of the pons? The brainstem is a fascinating part of our anatomy, acting as the vital link between the brain and the spinal cord. It's responsible for controlling many of our automatic functions, like breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure. Imagine it as the body's command center, tirelessly managing these essential processes without us even thinking about it. The brainstem consists of three main parts: the midbrain, Pons, and Medulla Oblongata. Each section plays a unique role. The midbrain is involved in vision and hearing, while the Pons helps regulate sleep and relays messages between different parts of the brain. The Medulla Oblongata is crucial for life. It controls involuntary actions like swallowing and sneezing. What's truly remarkable is how the brain stem also houses the cranial nerves, which are responsible for facial sensations and movements. This means it's not just about survival. It's also about how we interact with the world around us. Damage to the brainstem can lead to serious consequences, affecting everything from basic reflexes to consciousness itself. So the next time you take a breath or feel your heart beating, remember the unsung hero working behind the scenes, the brainstem, keeping us alive and connected to our environment. The brainstem, also known as the brainstem or truncus cerebri, connects the cerebrum to the spinal cord and regulates vital functions. The midbrain or mesencephalon is involved in auditory and visual processing and movement control. The pons or mesencephalon regulates sleep and arousal, sensory processing, and motor control. The medulla oblongata or myelencephalon controls breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, and body temperature. The brainstem is associated with 10 cranial nerves: the olfactory nerve, CNI, for smell, the optic nerve, CN2, for vision, the oculomotor nerve, CN3, for eye movement, the trochlear nerve, CNV, for eye movement, the trigeminal nerve, CNV, for facial sensations and motor control, the abducens nerve, CNC, for eye movement, the facial nerve, CN7, for facial expressions and hearing, the auditory nerve, CN8, for hearing and balance, the glossopharyngeal nerve, CN9, for swallowing and taste, and the vagus nerve, CNX, for various functions, including respiration and digestion. Damage and disorders related to the brainstem include brainstem stroke, traumatic brain injury, TBI, brainstem tumors, locked-in syndrome, coma, and apneustic center damage, which affects breathing. Interestingly, the brainstem is only 2% of the brain's weight, but controls 90% of vital functions. It develops from the embryonic neural tube, and damage to the brainstem can lead to loss of consciousness or death. Clinical applications related to the brainstem include neuroimaging techniques like MRI and CT scans, neurosurgery, physical therapy, respiratory therapy, and treatment for sleep disorders. The human brain is a marvel of complexity, housing approximately 86 billion neurons. These neurons are the fundamental building blocks of our nervous system, transmitting signals throughout the body. Each neuron can connect with thousands of other neurons, creating an intricate web of communication. Now, let's talk about nerves. While the brain itself doesn't contain nerves in the traditional sense, it's the central hub for the entire nervous system. The brain communicates with the body through a vast network of peripheral nerves, which number in the hundreds of thousands. These nerves carry sensory information to the brain and motor commands back to the muscles. Interestingly, the brain's structure is designed for efficiency. It's divided into regions, each responsible for different functions, like movement, sensation, and cognition. This specialization allows us to perform complex tasks seamlessly. So, while we might not count nerves in the brain itself, the connections and pathways formed by neurons and peripheral nerves are what make our brains so powerful and capable of incredible feats. Understanding this intricate system not only fascinates us, but also opens doors to advancements in neuroscience and medicine. There are several types of nerves in the brain, and the exact number can vary depending on how they are classified. Here's an overview. Cranial nerves, 12 pairs. Olfactory nerve, CNI. Smell, optic nerve, CN2, vision, oculomotor nerve, CN3, eye movement, trochlear nerve, CN4, eye movement, trigeminal nerve, CNV, facial sensations, motor control, abducens nerve, CN6, eye movement, facial nerve, CN7, facial expressions, hearing, auditory nerve, CN8, hearing, balance, glossopharyngeal nerve, CN9, swallowing, taste, vagus nerve, CNX, various functions, respiration, digestion, spinal accessory nerve, CNX, neck, shoulder movement, hypoglossal nerve, CN2, tongue movement, spinal nerves, 31 pairs, cervical nerves, 8 pairs, neck, arm, thoracic nerves, 12 pairs, chest, abdomen, lumbar nerves, 5 pairs, lower back, leg, sacral nerves, 5 pairs, pelvis, leg, coccygeal nerve, 1 pair, tailbone. Other nerves, peripheral nerves, connect brain to peripheral nervous system, sympathetic nerves, regulate autonomic functions, fight-flight response, parasympathetic nerves, regulate autonomic functions, rest-digest response. Neurons, nerve cells. Estimated 86 billion neurons in the human brain. Synapses, nerve connections. Estimated 100 trillion synapses in the human brain. Keep in mind that these numbers are approximate and can vary depending on individual differences and sources. Would you like more information on a specific type of nerve or brain structure?